Hey everyone, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Right. Sorry, I got late by a few minutes.
Good morning.
Morning.
That's fine.
Good
You're going to
morning.
buy us a lunch.
Yeah, sure. Come to Houston. I'll buy you a lunch.
Sure. It will take you 5 hours only.
Yeah, I'm in Houston by the way right now, so just had a plan here. But cool. I think we have most of us in the class. We can probably get started. And
Can I ask you some questions from yesterday's class before we begin?
Mhm.
One thing was you said Azure and Azure DevOps. Are these two the same things?
No,
No? Okay.
Azure is cloud. Like there is AWS, Microsoft
Okay.
Azure, and Google Cloud. They are
Okay.
three cloud platforms that all the companies uses. One of them is what they will be using. Azure DevOps is tool within that, and that tool is used to manage the releases. Like when we want to launch the product in production, when we want to when we want to organize developers' code, our test cases that we're going to test for our user stories, everything is being organized under this tool called Azure DevOps.
And is it like DevOps is basically a working culture that is a combination of developers and operations?
Working culture.
That's what I was actually going through some YouTube videos.
By theory. Don't go by theory. I don't think you need to know all those things. Just understand that DevOps is one of the tools that you are using. It's called ADO, is what you have to call in the interview. ADO, Azure DevOps.
Okay.
And that is what you have used to create your user stories. And I think that's where your work should stop. It's being used for a lot of other purposes that we cannot know or we would not know right now. So, for
Okay.
example, in Azure DevOps, when we want to launch something in production, right? Earlier, like 10 years before, there used to be a very difficult process. But now it is very simple. Like you just click a button and it will automatically get deployed to production. So if you have 5 user stories in that, right? Next to those user stories, there will be one button provided to developers only. They click on that button, that functionality will go live in market on a push of a button. Otherwise, someone will have to just copy, use that exact same code that is written in one environment, copy that, paste it in production environment, and again do the testing and then deploy it. It takes a lot of time. But now it is super easy. So Azure DevOps is used for that. It's called continuous integration and continuous deployment, CI/CD. But again, this is all development term. So it is simple, right? Continuous integration, continuous deployment means you constantly add new things and you constantly deploy something in production on a push of a button. And
Like,
that's
yesterday you had said that we can just go through any of the YouTube videos and just learn about it. So that's what I was trying to do. But do you recommend any particular one that we can actually follow?
I'll send you guys. And I
Okay.
think after class today, we just barely got started with user stories yesterday. We were running behind because we had some other topics to discuss. But I think once we complete the user story sessions today, you'll exactly know what you will do in that too.
Got it.
Cool. I think Revant had a family issue, so he was not able to join in. I don't see Shrey on the call.
Yeah.
Message him and then we can kickstart.
And Abdul, Shrey
20
and
minutes.
Abdul are not there.
Yes, Abdul is not there either. I think we can probably go ahead and start. I'll let them catch up after that. So, any other questions from yesterday's class? No questions?
No, this one is not from yesterday. It's from a previous class that I was studying actually. It's about gap analysis you had mentioned in one of the classes.
Yes.
If you can just explain that in a
Gap
little bit, I'm a
analysis
little
is
confused.
gap analysis. What is the English meaning of gap? Gap is like something where you want to be from where you are, right? In your career, if you want to be somewhere that's and where currently where you are at, there is a gap in between that, right?
Yes.
What that gap looks like. So whenever you build any product, this is how the product looks like right now. This is how the product should look like in future. And that's as simple as that.
Got it. So it's between the gap between a wireframe and the final product. I mean, just basic thing.
Is your existing scenario?
Existing, yes.
Wireframe is your existing scenario?
Yes.
I'm asking a question.
Uh,
Wireframe is how wireframe is an existing scenario. Wireframes, when you create for a new product.
we create for a new product. Yes, we
It's
do.
not part of the existing product, right?
No.
Gap is current product
Okay.
where you are, take that to a future product. What it takes to do that, like what kind of, so if Uber, let's say Apple phone, the first Apple phone that you had was Apple iPhone 5. I'm just making it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now iPhone 5 is the current version. 5 years from now, I want to make something like iPhone 11.
Yes.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the gap. So there is a gap for this 5 years in between. And my final product is iPhone 11. What will it take for companies to reach from iPhone 5 to iPhone 11? That's the gap. So there is a gap in terms of technology. There is a gap in terms of device, like hardware device. There is a gap in terms of feasibility, like things that were existing 5 years before, things that did not exist 5 years before, now it exists, like touch, like Face ID and all those things, right?
Yes.
And there are, so these are all gaps, right? So you find out that 5 years from now, this is where I want to be, and you prioritize it. These things are feasible for me in this year, so I'll want to implement this product first, followed by next, followed by others, right? As technology evolves, you keep enhancing your product. Then
Yes.
now you use gap analysis for it.
Okay.
It's stated as is and to be process, right? Current process versus the future process.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a question from when you were doing the comparison between agile and waterfall advantages and disadvantages.
Mhm.
Two things you said in a disadvantage. So we're comparing both these, products. So what's the advantage of agile over waterfall, and what's the disadvantage of agile over waterfall? Or are we just comparing the whole product on its own?
I'm not following your question.
So, like, I'll give you an example. When you say in agile, the advantage is reduced risk, but it's reduced risk compared to waterfall. One of the advantages you listed.
Yes, that's correct. Reduce risk as compared to waterfall.
Okay.
Usually
And
you compare only waterfall and agile because those are the only two highly used methodologies.
got it. All right. That was my question. Thank you.
And risks, how we define risk there is, in waterfall, it takes 1.5 years to launch a product, whereas in agile, it takes like just a month. So you find out things early and you deploy things early and you fix them early as well, right? So you get an opportunity to get new customers, first of all. Second, create a better product every month and not lose those customers. Right? Okay, so I think we can probably get started with the actual class. So I think I had sent some information last night to you all. I didn't have plans to drive to Houston, but I think I drove and I got it late. But it's okay. I think if you did not get a chance to look at those documents, you can look at it today. That's not a problem. Today, we are going to focus mostly on different type of roles, clarifications, like what these three roles means to us. And we are going to understand Agile in one level more deeper than what we had until now. And this is all you want to know about Agile that we are going to learn in the class today. And there will be a lot of other jargons being used. If you have already taken Agile certification somewhere, please ignore all those jargons. All these things is not being used in the company. Companies are very particular about what is helping them, and they're just going to use those methods or those jargons or those processes being in Agile. Otherwise, they will just ignore them if it is not helping them. So this is, I've worked for almost 100 to 120 Agile teams by now in last 12 years. And I have implemented Agile practices in my company. I've also helped team understand how to move from waterfall to Agile, what you have to do. So this is the gist or summary of everything. And this itself is a lot in terms of your knowledge if you know this much. And you do not have to go anywhere beyond this to learn anything about Agile. This is super enough for you to clear your interview and also for you to work efficiently at your office. Okay, it definitely helps you 80-90%. 10-20% I can't control because every company is different and every process is different. Cool. So Today we're going to first focus, before we do anything, we are still going to focus on user stories, how sprint operates, what are the type of meetings we have in Agile, and then we are going to learn at the end the different type of role clarification, because without talking these things, it will be very hard for me to walk you through the role clarification between BA, PO, and Scrum Master. Cool. So that's the agenda for today. And without further delay, let's get started with it. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
So I just created, I think if I can invite people on this one, let me see. All teams members. I've created an agile board for you all. Okay. So can you all send me, I think I already have your email ID. Search and add users and or groups to your team. I already have your email ID. I'll add your email ID here. So in that way, you'll be requested to get access to this board. So what I've done is, yesterday we were talking about this epics and user stories, right? This one. So we created this wish list. From this wish list, we had, these are the epics, and these are the sub features under that. And then we had some stories under that, right? So what I did was I created an epic first. I've just created one epic right now. Okay. Let me go back. So under sprint, everything will be for you under boards here. So if you see over here, this, you see this purple icon, this is test cases. This is where you add your test runs. It is for QA team, not for you. They put all the test cases for all the user stories here. You see this pipelines releases. This is where development teams will manage their code and our release code, like what is going live and when. Again, this is not for us. The only thing that we are going to look into is this one, boards. Under that we have this board, backlog, and sprints. These are the only things that is applicable to you. Okay. So I've set up this board for you all where I have added some, this, just ignore this. I've just renamed this labeled as wish list, epics, and product backlog. Okay. But we have created in Excel sheets, so I'm not too worried about that. This is the main thing I wanted to share with you. In the backlog, I'd created this epics. This is one epic, digital mortgage. This is the project. This is the product we are building. Under this product, all this are sub epics, sub features. Okay. Under this epic, these are all features. I've considered promotional quotes is one feature, online quotes is one feature, mortgage calculators is one feature, find a loan officer, login and sign up, and testimonials. These are all the things that we discussed yesterday here. Right? So from here, I've just used one feature, which is promotional quotes. I've created user stories for that. So this is where I think it will take some time to make you understand how it works in Agile. What are the differences between waterfall and Agile? So in waterfall, can you still see my screen? We had these 3 phases. We had these 7 phases here. Initial, planning, requirement gathering, design, development, testing, and implementation. Out of this initial phase, what you do here is converted into wish list, brainstorming sessions that we have in the company in Agile. So this waterfall step is equivalent to wish list in Agile. Okay. This planning is more like product backlog, where you identify the dependencies of a team, identify the dependencies on the features, you prioritize your MVP. We discussed that yesterday, right? You prioritize that MVP. That is all part of planning. So product backlog is equivalent to planning. Wish list is equivalent to initial phase. When I say equivalent, I'm saying whatever stuff you do here, the similar kind of discussions are going to take place in your office when you are in that phase of Agile. Wish list, you are probably focusing more on at a high level about the what things you want to do, why should we do that, what are the customer pain points, and all those things. In planning phase, you identify, planning in Agile is you identify that, hey, how many teams are affected by this, who is going to build this product, and what is our team has to do on this, like our development team, what they have to do in it. So this too happens first. After that, this requirement gathering that you see, now this is where the actual sprint starts, right? So in Agile, it works as wish list, product backlog, then they have sprint backlog, only 3 things, correct? So before any company starts adopting Agile, there is something called sprint zero. There is something called sprint zero. Sprint zero means people do not know how our team functions. People do not know about what our team's requirements are, because this is the first time they're implementing Agile in their company. So what they do is, as part of sprint zero, they will set up this, the board that we are looking at right now. They will set up this board per team's requirement. They will have some discussions. And this is not your job, okay? To set up this entire board where you have to create these release files. Sorry, not this. You have to create these release pipelines, test cases and all. This is all not your job. We have different folks for these things. So they will do their job. But what you are going to do is, remember, this is super, super important for you. As a product owner or a business analyst, you always have to be one step ahead of the team. So if we have sprint zero, so every 2 weeks, so as I said, right, sprint can be of 1 week, or it can be up to 4 weeks. On an average, I've seen a lot of companies implement one sprint for 2 weeks only, not more than that, only for 2 weeks. And what I mean by that is, in that sprint, the only thing that you do is this: design. Sorry, this is what you do in that: develop, test, and implement. Develop, test, and implement. Every 2 weeks, this is what you do on a small user stories, as opposed to doing this for the entire project. You do it for only small user stories. So when I say sprint, I'm saying an iteration of development, testing, and implement. Development, testing, and implement. That goes on and on after every 2 weeks, as long as companies following Agile for. It gets to a point where it becomes so boredom that every day you walk into the office, you're following the exact same routine with just a different user story. So the process, right? The process is very similar. It does not change much. What change here is the user story that you pick to work on every sprint. So assume this is the way it works, right? When you want to build a new neighborhood, it will take a lot of effort for you to build first house in that neighborhood. Once you build that first house really well, once you understand what worked for that, what did not work well for that, you have your learnings, right? And now when you want to build a second house, it will become easier, right? So same team who built first house, they have to just now talk to second customer, build the second house for that customer. There will be some different requirements, because every house has some unique requirements based on the customer needs. Or some houses are 2 stories, some houses are 1 story, some houses are 3 bedrooms, some houses are 4 bedrooms, some are like a farmhouse, right? So based on the type of requirements, when you build one house, the second house becomes really easy.
Got it. Question.
Sorry, just wait a second, please. Can I request you all to please hold your questions for 30 minutes? I will give you your chance. If you have any question, please write it in the chat, and I will make sure to read through this chat and answer all the questions. I really want to make sure I'm able to go in the flow and cover all the things that I have in my head first today, if you guys don't mind. So, lost the connection. Yeah. So you have hired one crew to build one house. Okay. Now your job is that you have to create 500 houses in that neighborhood. So it took you 1 month to create one house. So now that same crew, what they have to do, every day they will come in at the same time. They'll build some or like the same house or a little different house based on someone else's expectation. But is their job is going to change? No. Every single day they keep doing the same thing. Correct? Every single day. So they will, instead of hiring 500 crews, they just have one crew. That one crew will do the same and repetitive job every single month. Okay, that is how Agile works. So the reason you might be thinking that, hey, we are covering 3 skills, business analyst, product owner, and scrum master in just 5 weeks. Is it really feasible? Right? So it is feasible for a reason. You first of all, you need to know what is waterfall and agile, regardless of whether you're going for a business analyst training, product owner training, or a scrum master training. You need to know that knowledge. You need to have that knowledge. Otherwise, you will not be able to communicate with anyone, right? As a business analyst, there are several things that you do, which are somewhat common with product owner role as well. So there is another common area where of the knowledge that you need to have, right? And how the entire agile functions, be a product owner and scrum master, everyone has to have the exact same knowledge about that process. Otherwise, things are not going to work, right? But in each of this process, our role is little different based on the skill set we are going to acquire, which is BA, PO, or scrum master. And what happens in this is, I'm not kidding. When you start working on any sprint, you'll be seeing that team is super, super excited because this is the first sprint you're working on. You're moving from waterfall to agile. People are excited in general. It's a highly sought after a methodology in the world. Soon after like 3 or 4 sprints, people feel they're exhausted, right? So if you remember the small exercise that we did in the class, hey, just keep writing your name. Right after, you have to focus on your area. Just right after I type my name, someone else will type his or her name, right? You are so focused, you are so aggressive, and you're constantly working. There is no time, there is no idle time, there is no downtime in the office. So if you are in the office, 8 hours are also less. It's like that. You will, if you're focused, you will not even have time for lunch sometimes, is what that's how it goes, right? Because when you're so focused on doing something, people are waiting on you. If you don't deliver things on time, other person is going to tell tomorrow in the meeting, hey, this person did not do his job, so I cannot start the work today. So you're constantly in that stress zone, and it works out good for a week, 2 weeks, month, 2 months, 6 months. But if it goes for on and on, it is exhausting. So the reason agile team calls this as a sprint is because when you are, if you know marathon concept, when you're in a running competition, right? Last 100 meters, you run it with your full capacity. Doesn't matter how much pain you have at that time after running for 20 miles. You do not give a damn about anything. All you do is, this is last 100 meter, I'll kill it. I'll run as fast as I could. I will forget, I will forget whatever pain I have in my body, and I will stretch. Even if I know that I can do 1 mile in 1 minute, I'll do 1 mile in 30 seconds now. You just have that mindset because it's the last laps, right? So you know after this you're going to get rest. So as a human, it's our psychology that we run so fast, and we beat our own record in that last 100 seconds every time when we run, right? That is the same concept this methodology has been evolved from. That's why it is called sprint. Every sprint you need to break your own record. As a team, you need to do constantly something different, constantly something better, and in doing that, you just exhaust your resources. There will be time where people will be demotivated. There will be time where people just feel they're not doing anything new. There will be time where people feel just, hey man, this is so boredom. Why am I working? So energy level can go up and down, right? As a BA and a product owner, the most important thing is that your energy level cannot go down. Because if your energy level goes down, entire team is going to suffer. Okay. So we have to be really proactive. So one of our key role in BA, in Agile, whether you are hired as a BA or a product owner or as both or as Scrum Master, right? You have to constantly motivate team. When I say motivate team, as in try to build repo with them. Hey, what are you doing today? Just have some regular conversations. Do not try to don't just have work related conversations with people. Just acknowledge, hey, everyone is going crazy right now. I know that there is so much work. But besides that, how are things in your life? I forgot to ask you, how is your family doing? Start having that repo, because if you only talk about work, either of you are going to get exhausted or not take that really well. Because if I'm in some other zone, if I'm tired and if you're talking about work, it will not be very well received and things can go wrong, right? And this is not written in any agile book, but I still want to say this. Assume that this is your first responsibility in agile, to make sure that you are self-motivated and you motivate team every single day. Okay. This is more like when your crew build house in 1 month, you should know builders. If they know that this crew has built this house in 1 month, that builder will do every single thing to make sure that that crew does the same house in 3 weeks from that for the next house. Builder will reduce 1 week intentionally because we've done this before. Now, why do you need 1 more month? You can do it in 3 weeks now, right? They're running business. And likewise, when you are in the office, when you deliver something to them, they will be happy. And suddenly they will say, hey, why are we taking 1 month for this? We just built this yesterday. We know all these things now. Why are we taking longer? Every time when you cross the finish line will be moved. That's the reality, right? Every time when you cross the finish line will be moved. And it is for a reason, right? Because if companies satisfy themselves at that finish line, they will never able to innovate. They will never able to deliver better products. So first thing you need to understand is that you are always, every single day, you are competing against yourself. You are trying to make yourself as a better person, as a better employee every day when you walk in the office. If you don't have that right mindset, it'll become problematic for you to survive in agile environment. Okay. And again, you will not develop this in day one. This is more for your reference that this is the kind of soft skill you need when you are in agile environment. So this happens in wish list. This is part of wish list. This is part of product backlog. This is part of sprint. Design, development, test, and implement. Development, test, and implement. This is part of sprint. So where does this two phase go? Requirement gathering and design, where we discuss the architectural solution, we create the high fidelity designs, we gather the requirements, we write the user stories. Where would these two things go, right? So this is how it works. It starts with can you all see my screen still? Excel sheet.
Yep.
So over here you would see this. So usually there are multiple ways to name the sprint, right? People can go by sprint, they can go by river, they can go by city, they can go by different animals. Whatever you want to name your sprint, you can name that. There is no protocols there. What makes it easy for people to understand in which sprint we are is to really label it along the month. So if I'm in month of March, I will just say sprint 3A and 3B. It's a 2-week sprint, right? So I can at least have 2 sprints in 1 month. So 3A and 3B. If it's in January, I'll say 1A, 1B. If it is February, I'll say 2A, 2B, right? So just to give some perspective, when I'm talking to someone, they know what sprint I'm talking about, right? So sprint label goes as sprint 0, then sprint 1A, then sprint 1B, then sprint 2A, then sprint 2B, then sprint 3A, then sprint 3B, and it goes on and on for years. Okay, so if you want, you can probably add here 0_2021, 1A_2021. So next year when you start 1A, it's going to be 2022. Make sense? Just some basic protocols. In this sprint, what they do here is they have this requirement gathering and design. What you do here, over here, we do it very extensively. We spend 2 to 3 months on requirement gathering. We spend approx 2 months on design here. So this 4 months of time, we are just spending here. We spent about 2 months of time above. So if you see, until 6 to 8 months of the project, we have not started writing a single line of code. Right? Let's say if this happens, like your design completed and suddenly there is a pandemic. Okay, your company has to lay off people, your project got deprioritized. So what's going to happen now? That you worked on the project, you created all these requirements, all these things in 6 months, and now you don't have a team who's going to develop this for you. So all the money that you've spent on this is being wasted. Right? How is the customers going to use the product? Customers cannot use the product if they cannot see the product. And customers cannot see the product if developers are not going to write the code for it. And if you're not going to launch it. So there is such a big risk that if something happens to the company, if priorities goes back and forth, you will end up dumping the entire project. And for 6 months, people who have worked on it, you have paid them, which is about $1 million, you'll just lose that. and I'm saying $1 million is a minimum amount I'm saying. For 6 months, you're at least looking at $4 to $5 million that will be wasted. Or because there are so many people involved here, right? You have senior manager, you have director, you have business analyst, then you have project manager, tech lead, so many resources are involved here, right? You definitely lose more than $3 to $4 million and opportunity cost. So wouldn't it be good, as opposed to just talking about this for 6 months, every month or every 2 weeks, we put small functionality in market and people are actually using that. And now when after 6 months, when pandemic hits you, you know now, should I work on this project or should I not? If users are dying to use a product, you cannot stop working. You will still have to get the funding for that. But if students, if customers are not dying to use a product, that means you know that product is not working out. So why to even spend money for additional 6 months and build or enhance this product further? Let's just scrap this. Let's just stop here and let's not move it. Let's not make anything else. Valid thing. So I'll give you one example. When I was creating mobile application, I did not consider that service providers for my startup, they do not speak English. I did not consider that as a big deal. So what happened when I created the mobile application, I faced two different consequences after building the mobile application. Although I communicated with the customer, I still face these consequences. So first, service providers will not use the app because they don't understand English. Unless I put some kind of Spanish translation in my app, they would just not use it. To manage their calendar, to manage customers, they would not use it at all because they are this. I'm dealing with labor force here, right? Second, customers were so satisfied with just an email notification, they will never download the app and come inside the app. So I built something. I spent 6 months of my effort working on these things, which nobody's going to use. You see that point now? Right? Because customers just wanted just one thing. First, their first priority was, their first most important thing was, I want to get notifications in time so I know someone is coming at my home. I don't care whether you have an app or not. So this is the way customers are going to, customers can think, right? So then we had to change our business model. Whenever someone onboards on our company now, we first make sure that they have to onboard using our mobile application. So in that way, they have to download our app first and they receive push notification. Because if email notifications are so satisfactory, push notification can take the game to the next level. So we have to change our model. So this is the learning that you get. Had I waited for like 2 years to launch the product, I would have not learned that. Right? So when you do this in Agile, you learn these things and then you incrementally enhance. And I'll just take 5 more minutes and then answer all the questions. So this is how it works. As a BA or a product owner, you are always running one step ahead of the team. So assume that sprint 1 is sprint 0. Okay. Development is going to start from here, 1B. You will take these 2 weeks to prepare user stories for them, like we did here in the, so you go to the sprint. I will say my next sprint is what? Let me click on this. I've created 2 sprints for you, sprint 1 and sprint 2. This is sprint 1. And when I click on sprint 2, this is what I see. Right? So sprint 2 is when development team is actually going to start working on something. Okay. Sprint 2 is this is when development team will start writing code. So I want to make sure sprint 2 is going to start on April 1st. Before April 1st, it's my job as a BA or a product owner to make sure that I have created all these user stories for them before April 1st and discuss with the team and make sure they all agree that these stories look good. Are you following? So we don't work in sprint cadence. Although we work in sprint cadence, we do not have a dedicated sprint assigned to us. We always work in one sprint ahead. So when development team wants to work on sprint 2 on something, for that same task, we will be working on sprint 1. But for our task, we will not put things here. Right? So I'll create one more sprint. I'll just give you an example. I'll create a new sprint, sprint 3. And I'll say this is from 16th or 15th of April through 30th of April. So this is sprint 3. Okay. So I know when development team, so from April 1 to April 14th, assume that all these things is in sprint backlog. This is called sprint backlog, right? All this thing is what developer is working on right now. So when developers are working in sprint 2 as a B or a PO, you are actually working on sprint 3. Why? Because you want to create the similar view like you created for sprint 2 before sprint 3 starts. Otherwise, when sprint 3 starts, developer will not have work to do. So you always work in 2 to 4 weeks advance of them on any initiative that you're going to work on. So this requirement gathering phase and design phase here, these two phases are not existing in Agile, but the way it operates is in the same sprint where development, testing, and implementation is happening. For some task, BA and PO work on the future tasks in the same sprint that when they're working on the sprint. So this is how it works, right? Our roles and responsibilities in each sprint as a BA and a PO is super simple. Clarify questions for the existing sprint or existing stories that development and testing team is working on. That is our first goal, right? Clarify open questions from the existing user stories that development team and testing team is working on. And second, create user stories for future sprints. You will do these two things again and again, every single day, and for lifelong, as long as you're in the office and in this role. So those two things are super, super important. So I will say this one more time. You will, when development team is working in sprint 1B, they're working on developing a user story. At the same time, in 1B, when you are in 1B, you will write user stories for sprint 2A, which is after this. This is 2A. And the reason is, if, and again, I'll give you a very, very simple example, right? Let's say you want to, you have hired a chef at your home for some party, okay? That chef charges you $1,000 an hour, okay? $1,000 an hour. And for that chef, he said that he's just going to be available for 2 hours at your home, and he's going to cook for 500 people in 2 hours. But he's going to cook an excellent food, okay? Just in 2 hours. And his hourly rate is $1,000. Now, as a party organizer, what would you make sure that is available for chef before he arrives at your home?
Space, ingredients,
Space, ingredients. What's next?
equipment that he needs,
Okay.
dishes and equipment.
So space, equipment,
recipes.
yes. What else?
Team. You need people to work around with him, to help him.
What
Does he
next?
need recipes, like specific recipes for the
What is your menu for the,
So Abdul, I would not say you need recipe, because recipe is what he's getting paid for, right?
Yeah, that's his own recipe. So it's the menu that we can decide on.
If he shares with you, then very well, you can charge $1,000 after that, Abdul. You don't have to become BA after that.
Okay.
I think it's more of the menu.
Yes.
Utensils,
What was that, Nisha?
utensils, Raju.
Utensils. Okay, utensils and equipments are going together. What's next? Scope lock. You can't tell him that, hey, I have 500 people coming, and then you suddenly say, hey, now I just have 300 people coming. Just cook for 300 people. Or I have 700 people coming. Scope lock. Right?
Yes.
At a minimum, do you need these things? Does this sound like a BA responsibility?
Yes.
This is exactly what you do. So this development team is charging you how much we pay. We have like 2 weeks, and we have like, so every agile team is made up of 4 developers, at least 3 to 4 developers, 1 or 2 QAs, 1 BA, and half product owner and half scrum master. So you're about talking about 9 to 10 people close to 9 people per team. One agile team is made up of close to 9 people. Half of them would be developers, 1 or 2 would be QA, and 1 BA, half product owner, and half scrum master. In some companies, you will just have 1 product owner and there will be no BA. So you will have 1 product owner, 1 or 2 testers, 4 developers, and 1 scrum master. So every company changes or combines this in their own way and in the way that it suits them. So talking about on an average 10 people for 2 weeks. So they're half salary. So if you are paying about $120,000 to a resource on an average for those 10 people, you're looking at how much? $1.2 million or close to $1.5 million a year. So if you divide that for 2 weeks, how much money is that? For every sprint for 10 people, you are paying them about $50,000. So $50,000 is what is being invested every 2 weeks as a company in one team. If you do not use that $50,000 well, you can say, hey, I don't have equipments or utensils today. I'll go and buy it. Just wait for 1 day. I'll go and get that, and now you can start cooking. But what is going to happen now? You wasted company's resource. That guy is being paid no matter what, right? If you tell that chef that, hey, instead of 2 hours, take 1 more hour, I'll go back to Walmart, and just imagine it's as simple as you forgot to have salt at your home, and your Walmart is 30 minutes from your home. The only option you have when he's at your home is to go back to Walmart, get the salt. You would have never paid, the salt would have never been as expensive as this one, because you have to pay $1,000 extra to the guy now.
You can borrow from the neighbor.
If you have a good neighbor. I'm just joking, but yeah. So overall, you got the idea, right? This is what happens in the company. So if you do not provide right information to that person who is developing in the sprint, your sprint time is being lost. It will go to the next sprint, which means as a company, you wasted money. You wasted time, you wasted money. So that's why when the next sprint starts, which is 2A in this case, we have to be extremely organized about what they're going to work on in the priority order, and what exactly are they going to need before they start their work. We need to read their mind. Right? And there is an approach where we can how we do this. It takes about 3 to 4 sprints for a new team to get adjusted with each other, to understand each other's mindset, to understand each other's strength and weakness, and then they start functioning well. Either they will start functioning well, or they will keep fighting after that. Only 2 things are going to happen, nothing more. Only two outcomes from there. Either they will keep functioning well because they understand they understand each other so well, or the second option is that because they understand each other so well, they'll keep fighting. Because, hey, I need these things from you. You're not giving me this thing in time. So flexibility is key here, right? Sometimes you can offer flexibility, sometimes you cannot offer flexibility. So this is the essence of Agile, and we are going to create this. I think we have created some stories here. I've created it for you in this board, and you're going to look at the stories, and I'll exactly tell you how it works further from here. But I'll pause here and I'll check the questions that you guys have. So Amir, the question about the PO or a BA will be working on product backlog as well as sprint backlog. This question will be answered at the end of the class today. We have a dedicated session for the roles and responsibilities. The next one is, what is a hybrid environment, as mentioned on top of the chart, where it says BA, waterfall, and hybrid. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, go ahead, Samnit.
If you can put out the previous slide that was already there, I have a question from that. The one that you were looking at. No, not this one. The one that you had week 1, week 2.
Excel.
Yes, thanks. Okay, so what my understanding would be, in week 1, when we are getting ready as BA or PO, when we are getting ready to give our information to the developers, what is that they are doing, like, because it's a sprint session. So how does it work? I know you were talking about week 3 and week 4, when they are working on, the developing team is working on the stuff that we have given in week 1 and 2. We are already preparing their stuff for week 3 and week 4.
Yes.
But our stuff has to be given to them before the sprint, that's what my.
Yes. And
So
and
do we get that extra time?
there will be meetings, and we're going to talk about, there are meetings, and I will walk you through this type of meetings that we have in Agile. And within this 2 weeks over here, when you're working for sprint, when you're working for week 5th and 6th as a BA and a PO, although development team is working on this, but they cannot stop you to schedule meetings for this one. You can still schedule those meetings so that when 2A starts, we have gotten their approvals that they can work on the stories.
But what about week 1 and 2? When is the initial state? We have to provide them with some kind of information.
When you are in first sprint, right? First sprint as a team, it's all just research. There is nothing remaining. Nobody knows what to do. Everyone is trying to figure out how to do things, right? And they will, as I said, you will set up the, as a BA or a PO, what you would do, you will make sure that your backlog items are created here properly. Under boards, you have backlogs, sprints created properly. They will make sure that their code is set up here properly in these pipelines. The release pipelines have been set up. Testers will make sure that they are able to create test plans properly and all those things, right? And it will be a stretch for us when the first sprint starts, right? We'll have to work extra, because not only we have to just set up these things, we also have to have meetings so that before next sprint starts now, we have work lined up for our team. So it's a stretch on a BA or a PO end for the first sprint. But after that, you get into that rhythm. And once you get into that rhythm, it just keeps continuing. So it's like when you want to start the car, right? You need the key that is going to be on the engine. Once you start it, once engine is running, then it is just going to keep running until you stop it, right? So some additional energy and power is required from everyone when the sprint starts first time in the company as a team. After that, if someone joins in, they'll just have to blend into that. It will keep running.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a question. So can we name the sprint 1 and sprint 2, like just like you named them in the Excel, sprint 1A, sprint 1-2, sprint 2A? So is it like each sprint is 2 weeks, right?
Yes, and I don't know if I can edit the sprints again, but let me see if there is a way. I already named them, so I'm not sure if I can edit them now or not. I'll have to find out how to edit the sprint. I'll see if I can do that. But for now, just assume I'll just have it in the Excel sheet, and there should be a way to edit this. So usually when you start the job in the company, all these things are set up for you. You don't have to do all those things. It is not letting me edit here. So I'll have to delete the existing sprint that I have here, all the sprints, and then create new ones because I've already assigned the date. So I cannot go back and change it right now. But assume this is 1A, 1B, and 2A. So 1A, current sprint is this. So 1A, 1B, and 2A. Okay. Any other questions before I actually go to the user stories now? Do you guys understand the process? How it works in Agile?
One last question I have. So our job is just to assign them duties, like the developer and the other team. We are not going to be constantly checking as to what they're doing. Like if there are any mistakes or anything, we don't do that.
Scrum Master does that. Hence, I said it's the Scrum Master role is a little more difficult because you deal with a lot of people issues.
Is it concerning coding too?
Not directly like looking at the code, but why there are a lot of bugs in the code. When it goes to the testing environment, why there are a lot of bugs, right? Why, what we can do to make sure that doesn't happen. Because see, all of us have limited time here. If one person doesn't do job efficiently in this cycle, the entire team will fail. For example, if BA does not write good user story, developers are going to do a poor job of developing that functionality, and QA is going to do a poor job of testing it. Either QA will find it, or your actual customers will tell you that you have created a poor product. Or is the other way around, where you have given a good acceptance criteria, and developer did not read that well because of lack of expertise on his side, or he assumed something, he created something, again things will fail. So if one person makes a mistake, entire team pays a penalty for it.
So that's why we have the Scrum Master who does the checking for them.
Yes, that is why we have Scrum Master. So
Got it.
there was one more message on the chat. There will be multiple sprints that the BA will be working on. How do you complete a sprint? When would the status be done? So Nisha, there will be multiple sprints that we will be working on. You mark stories as complete here. When I click on the story, under this, there will be an option to mark this as done. You see this for each story. After testing is completed, there will be one more status. It says UAT. In UAT, when I feel as a product owner, everything looks good to me, I can accept that story and I can mark that story as complete from there. Scrum Master is the only one that can mark that entire sprint as complete. But as a BA or a PO, you can only mark one story complete at a time. And that too after testing. If you feel that story is developed to your acceptance criteria, and what you test is everything that you have written here in the story, you'll test all the single thing, every single thing that is written here. If everything looks good, go back here, mark as done, and you save it, and you're done with the story.
So if it's an iteration, right? Because you said that every day you do the same thing, you go test it, evaluate it. So the cycle that you explained.
Mm-hmm.
So once, say, you complete this story as done, the other iteration, it'll be another story, it'll be another sprint.
One iteration, you have several stories.
Okay. Okay.
Right? So two developers might be working on two stories, one for each of them, right? And once that is ready, they will put it in test environment here. From there, it will go to the UAT and work on that way. Cool. Any other questions? All right. So because we don't use that information from books, we use it based on our environment, and every team is different. Every team comes up with their own approach on developing things, on writing stories, on getting things completed and launching it. Every team has their own approach. There are some best practices that Scrum Master can bring in, but again, Scrum Master cannot enforce that on any of them, on any of the team members. There will be an interview question. What kind of roles are involved in Agile or in Scrum environment? Whenever I say Agile, by default, you should assume it's Scrum. Agile is the methodology. Under that, we have Scrum, XP, Kanban, and SAFe. We talked about this before, right? In our last class. Scrum is the only one that is being used right now. XP is outdated. It's not used from, I think, last 10 to 12 years now. SAFe is too advanced. It just started like a year or two before. Not a lot of companies are working on this. And Kanban, I'll walk you through that Kanban, what Kanban is and where it is being used. But first, understand Agile. That is the more important part. If you know Agile really well, and if you know how to write BRD, 50% of your interview is in your hand. Okay? And trust me on this, 50 to 60% interview is in your hand, and you can just shine in that interview. Nobody can stop you. These things are that important in the interview and from your responsibilities perspective. So when we start writing user stories, let's go back. So I'm going to show you a real project on this one. We have made a lot of assumptions yesterday that this is the project that we want to work on, right? That there will be some links here. This is the navigation bar. So you can go to Home Mortgage, you can go to like other links on the site here from. This is the promotional rates. This is where customers will see the customized loan options based on their loan amount and property value. And this is where they can let us contact them if we have to. Okay, so this is one idea. And so this case study was created from one of my previous really a project that I worked on. I'm trying to remember how long it has been. Probably about 7 or 8 years now. But this project is so popular that everywhere where we go in the companies, they are working on something on the website re-engineering. Okay, every time, every year, they're going to update their websites, update their portals, update their backend system to keep up with the new technology. So they have to constantly invest money in this. And the biggest thing about this is, so we created a project for this for SunTrust Bank. I'm teaching this from last 8 years, as you know, right? BA and product owner classes and all. So I took an example of a bank called, like right now we are using Academy Mortgage because SunTrust Bank was the one that I was using before Academy Mortgage in my classes example. But while discussing this in the classes for so long, I think after a couple of years, they actually ended up changing their website, which was looking like this. Right, so someone from there, they were doing the, so right now what we're doing is we're doing free analysis for Academy Mortgage. As a team, whatever analysis we have done, Academy Mortgage can get benefit out of it. It's a free analysis that we've done for them. Right, so I'll give you an example how a website like Academy Mortgage can be converted to a really high skilling website. So let me give you an example on that. You go to Bank of America. I don't like the experience in Bank of America as well. This is not a top-notch experience, but this is a lot better than Academy Mortgage. So you click on home loans. So if you see on the top, there is a message that gets started with your digital mortgage experience. So when you hear the word digital, you know you don't have to go to the branch. As opposed to Academy Mortgage, let's do a side-by-side parallel comparison. So this is okay. So now let's do the comparison. So when you go to Academy Mortgage page, what it shows, there is an online calculator, find a loan officer. So straight away it tells me I have to go to the branch. What is the message here? You do not have to go to the branch, right? Are you with me? It's a digital experience. Apply now button is on the top here. It says ready to apply. Nobody can see that. Over here, right? It's in front of you. Apply now. It tells you you can call on this number if you want to. You can also schedule an appointment. You can also get an estimate of cost if you have to. So all those things is given to you on your fingertip. Over here, there is nothing about refinance that you see, nothing about home equity that you see, but they've given you 3 clear options here: mortgage, refinance, and home equity. This is where today's low mortgage rates, right? So this is the promotional rates that you see here. These are the promotional rates. But they've done it in a way where they've combined this calculator, this promotional rates, and this custom calculator. They've combined it together. How? Whenever you want to create these promotional rates, remember we said there is a disclaimer that this price, this rates and this APR is applicable for 30-year fixed loan only when your loan amount is up to $450,000 or something like that. There are assumptions with this, right? So those assumptions have been taken out, and what they've done is they've done a smart approach. If you see here, Bank of America, you can, the moment you're logged in here, based on your zip code, you will see today's mortgage rate. These are promotional interest rate. Now, when you change these values, you can probably play with it. So what is the benefit over from here to here? There is one big benefit here. you are able to interact with this calculator more than what you can do here. This is more of a static information. I just read something, I'll forget it. But when I see this, I want to play with it now. Hey, maybe I want to buy a home for $300,000, not 250. Then what is the price looks like? So you are engaging with customer more right now by creating examples like this, right? So the same example that we did. So what we did here, we had a link here for refinance, for mortgage. One link here, we had today's mortgage rate. Then we had custom loan calculation here, and then apply now. So how did Bank of America did that? Bank of America did it differently. They have the navigation options here. They have the navigation options here. They have apply now button here, as opposed to showing that form, small form like this. They have done it in a different way. Apply now button here. Then today's mortgage and custom loan calculation, they've combined it here. At the end over here, you will see some other mortgage calculators. If you want to use, you can find a home, the process, how it looks like, some instructional, some educational information for the customer, how to buy, home buying process, how it works, right? Some FAQs, and you're done. So you feel that this page is any day better than Academy Mortgage? Do you guys feel that? I feel this is definitely a better version of Academy Mortgage. This is what Academy Mortgage, if they want to innovate in their website, this is what they're going to do. They're going to go to Bank of America. They will be going to Chase website, Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. There are some other mortgage companies, Lending Tree and all. They will go to those websites, find out what they're doing, and try to copy or find a mixture, a good mixture from all these websites, their competitive websites, and create something like that over here. Okay. So we can, so whatever we have here, the biggest difference is that we had stacked everything here in 4 boxes horizontally, like 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? So this design can work good for desktop, but these designs will not work good for mobile. You cannot have 4 boxes like this squished in mobile. So in mobile, how it is going to show up? 1 box on the top, followed by second, then third, then fourth. Right? So now you have a question. Should I just lay out this vertically, like 4 boxes vertically, 1, 2, 3, and 4, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, and 4? Should I do that on website as on the desktop as well, so that my view is consistent? Whenever a user comes to desktop or mobile, they always get the same experience. Are you following? So if your business owner, person who's expert on this, makes that decision, then instead of doing this 4 horizontal boxes, you are going to do something like Bank of America, where you are going to lay out in 4 vertical sections: 1, section 2, then section 3, and then section 4. Because these days technology has changed. Everyone opens everything on mobile, and people love scrolling. Facebook has trained you to keep scrolling endlessly. So that may work better in this case. So future of Academy Mortgage. So the gap analysis here is future of Academy Mortgage would look like something like this. So we have to go from here to here to increase our conversion. So if we are getting only 20 leads from this website, when we go to this level, we can very well get 100 leads now a day from the same number of customer. So without getting new traffic, you increased your revenue. You don't have to spend anything additional on advertising now. You may wanna, because you have a better experience, so you want to generate more traffic. But before you do that, you want to make sure your website is not broken. It is doing what it should be. Correct? So we are going to write some stories, and let's go. Any question? Do you guys all understand the context of the project really well?
Yeah.
I'll assume silence as yes. Let's go to the user story.
Yes.
So let's talk about the same user story which we discussed yesterday.
So you have to have the acceptance criteria in any story?
Yes. my team hates me where I'm working right now because I don't do that. And I go to an extent where sometimes I just write one line and I let them decide. But again, you can't do that from day one. As I said yesterday, right? You want to first get the trust from people, earn their trust, and then stretch them. Whenever I see that my team is coming to a finish line, I'll move the finish line. I am that person. The one that I was describing before that we'll get annoyed of. And you will find a lot of people in your office. And the reason is, right, if they don't do it, just imagine, if you keep doing what you're doing, in 20 years from now, your business will shut down. You have to change your business every month, every year to sustain in this new world. Otherwise, your business will just get bankrupt. You will not be able to sustain, because all these new startups that are coming, they're coming at such a powerful rate that it can break your business completely. So you need to create that mindset. You need to create that flexibility to make sure that your company is able to do that. Let me give you one more. I think I'm not sure if I shared this before or not. I've used this for my speaking sessions. So this is what you need to do as a company. Oh, what's happening? So this is a classic example that I always compare. So every human has a goal to look fit like this, right? Likewise, every company has a dream to be extremely digital transformation oriented company. In IT world, if you say that you are really top notch company in digital transformation, that means you are someone like this or someone like this. Okay. Now there are two kind of people who are constantly trying to be like them. These are Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google. They've already achieved this goal. Okay. Now for these four big companies, millions of companies are chasing them to become like them. How they'll become like them? So there are startups which has zero process, zero team, zero money, zero technology, zero knowledge, no experience. They're struggling, but this startup wants to hit this goal. Or there are companies, big companies, where they're spending a lot of money in processes, a lot of money in additional team members, like just for Academy Mortgage, for example, right? They are having so many branches. Like they're driving customers to branch as opposed to driving customer to an online application. So which means they are spending more on office, they're spending more on people, they're spending more on process, they are spending more on technology, because how would you manage your customers there when they're going from one branch to another branch, right? They have to spend more time, more money. There is no exponential growth for them. There is customer reach is going to be reduced because people have to go to the branch now. They cannot do things online, right? They cannot scale easily. There is always going to be a competition for them, and it will be a threat for them. They cannot go into the new market. So for companies like Academy Mortgage, if they're making so much money and they're so big, they have to reduce all these things in their company. Reduce the process, reduce the people, reduce the real estate, reduce technology, reduce time, reduce money, reduce and get the exponential growth still. But if it's a startup, you want to always increase everything, have more people, have more processes, have more offices, have more technology, and then scale your project or have more new products. So this is a classic example. This is what it's going to take for every company to be fit like this. In digital world, these are digital transformation, highly transformed company. And again, those are 4 companies: Apple, Google, Facebook, or even Microsoft to some extent. So every company has a goal. And this agile process is the balance of this one and this one. But it still takes them a year or so many years to even be like this guy. So this is how IT works. And let's go and talk about the actual user stories now. Okay, so we'll talk about the promotional rate one more time. I think it's pretty much aligning with what we discussed yesterday. This is the promotional rate. Okay, so I'm going to, you will see, I'm going to modify this story to meet this acceptance criteria here. So I'll copy this story first. And I will say Bank of America. I'm assuming this is our product. This is our 2B page looks like. This is the one that you have mocked. You will create the mockup for this and designer will create the high fidelity designs from this. So over here, what is going to happen now? As a customer, I want to make sure that mortgage homepage, this is the mortgage homepage. How? When you go to mortgage, here, home loans, click on that and you click on mortgage. This is the homepage for mortgage. This is where you land on, right? So as a customer, I want to make sure that the mortgage homepage allows me to view promotional interest rate, which is promotional interest rate. If you're looking at my cursor, promotional interest rate, APR, points, and monthly payments. Let me read it one more time from here. As a customer, I want to make sure that mortgage homepage allows me to view promotional interest rate, APR, points, and monthly payment so that I'm aware of the lowest interest rate that I could be qualifying for based on my credit history. So the acceptance criteria is this. This is how I will write the story. Acceptance criteria is this way. Validate that I have this section. Quick read portlets is just the name of this section on this page. Every page and every section on the page, you will have to give some name. So you make sure that when you're talking with your tester or your developer, you talk about the right section and right page. Otherwise, things get confusing. Oh, are you talking about this page or are you talking about this page? And after developing everything, they'll say, oh, I thought you were talking about that page. I already made change there. So don't get into that habit. Always talk them with a specific subject. Hey, this is the page we're talking about. This is the section on this page. And this is the reason we are having this conversation for. And then start talking about what you want on that page. Make sense? So validate that this section will display rates for 4 mortgage purchase products in the sequence. Do you see what is sequence in bold here? Why? Because I want to make sure developers are not going to know what are the sequence here. We need to tell them first it's 30-year fixed, then 15-year fixed, then 5-1 arm, and then 5-1 jumbo arm. So in this sequence, you want to display 4 products. Okay. Now, second is validate this section will display superscript text with the product label to notify a consumer about relevant disclosure. What is that? Over here, we don't have that asterisk here. You see this asterisk here on the top? This asterisk, it is mapping to this one. Disclaimer. So these rates are given to you if you qualify this criteria, terms and conditions, right? If I click on rate, what is rate? I click on that, it's a hyperlink. It opens up this. What is rate? Rate of interest on a loan expressed as a percentage. So yesterday I was talking about, right? You need to have superscript against each of this 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you need to have superscripts against here 1, 2, 3, and 4. Why? Because people who are buying loan first and they would not know. So these are your questions. When you work with your business team, you need to ask definition of every single term that you are using here. You are not a mortgage expert. So how would you know that? Shreya, to answer your question from yesterday again, you need to talk to business owner, tell them, help me understand this process, how this works right now. So next acceptance criteria is validate that superscripts associated with each product, which is this link. It could be a superscript, it could be a star, it could be a link like this. When you click on it, it opens a hyperlink like this or a pop-up. Next is validate solution will ensure quick rates portlet that is presented shows current rates, which is what it is doing. Then it should display, this is for APR. APR is shown here. This is for points. It should show points, which is shown here. And it should show monthly payment, which is shown here. Are you guys with me so far? Are you guys with me? Okay.
Yes.
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 Cool. So the next is, if you see, this says that you need to put some kind of timestamp. Validate that this section presented shows an updated timestamp that shows the last time that the rate got updated or rate were retrieved from our backend systems. Why do we do this? So if I come to this page, you see there's a timestamp here.
Legal point of view.
Yes. So this got updated at what time? 19th of March. It was updated 2 days before. So if you apply today, they're not obliged to offer you this rate. Make sense? I have worked for one company where there was a production issue. All this was 0000 in production. It was like that in production for 15 minutes. And they had to offer $0 to customers as interest rate for their mortgage product that they bought from them. Can you imagine? 30-year mortgage product for free because of the error for 15 minutes that happened in production. There was one more fun incident happened for that same company. They somehow had Bank of America's, or I don't remember which bank, some other bank's phone number as a customer care number. So when you're calling company A, agent is saying, hey, I'm calling from company B. These are real issues, guys. I'm not joking, okay? These are real issues from the companies where I've worked in the past. And I'm like, I was laughing out loud that how could even this happen? Right? But if another company B gets to know about this, then just imagine it's a big disaster. They can sue that company A because you're trying to steal their customers. So things happens. Next one is validate. This section will include a view additional mortgage rates link. We can put a link if we want to here. View additional products. These are just showing 3 products, but I could have 10 to 12 products for my company. So I could just have a link here, click here for additional products. This is what this is about. The last one here is finance tab on purchase page where default tab section is selected. This is not, I think I'll scratch this off. It is not for Bank of America's page, so we don't need it. But now you understand how to write user stories. So in this story, what you're going to provide, this high level information plus the mockup. That's all you're going to provide. So you will create something like this in Visio or in app.diagram. You write the story, take this screenshot, and I'll do it for you. So this is how the story is going to look like. So this is your user story. And there is one more thing that we need to add here. Whenever customer lands on this page, do you see these values are given by default? If you open Bank of America on your side, you will see the exact same values. So we need to call out this in our acceptance criteria. Acceptance criteria would be
Do we have to provide the screenshot along with the story?
yes. The default values, and you will work with your designers. So you and your designer work in one sprint ahead of the actual development team so that they have the screenshots available before they start the development. The default values for purchase price, down payment,
Or maybe the average home prices in that area.
we can do that, but I'm just keeping it generic for now because it's going to make it more complicated. How would you find out average price for each city or each zip code? And
Because
we cannot get wrong information there.
Sorry, if you see the zip code, maybe it matches with the zip code in that area. I don't know, just saying.
Yep, it could be. I don't feel that is the case here. This is all static information. Because if you want to do what you're saying, Hassan, it's going to be very challenging because you need to first create the mapping of somewhere that for each zip code, this is the average price. And what if that price fluctuates? How would you keep up with it? Right? We are talking about hundreds of cities and hundreds of numbers. And these numbers keeps changing every year based on their appraisal value. So how would you keep that information updated? So the better way is to just give them some static value. As a user, they would know, hey, I have to just change this information to match my needs.
But somewhere they mapped already. That's why they're giving you option, because if you once you put your own zip code, they will give you a new price, right?
Check it and tell me.
Okay.
Go to bankofamerica.com, click on mortgage and let me know if that is true or not.
It's the same. I mean, I have the same zip code, the 954.
They would not do that. It's
So-
super complicated. So guys, understand the complexity behind it, right? Just assume that whenever someone walks in your house, you just have one sofa. Okay? Whenever someone walks into your house, you just have one sofa. As opposed to whenever anyone comes into your house, sofa automatically gets changed to a sofa that someone else is liking. So if Zubair comes to my house and he has a particular taste of a sofa, he will automatically see that sofa. Is it how challenging is that? So if I invite 500 people at my home for anything, there will be 500 different sofas that I have to maintain on my own now. Right?
Yes, sir. And my wife will be very happy if you get that.
Of course. So this is what happens, right? In reality also. So when you put some requirements like this is a great suggestion. So when you are going to give this suggestion as a business analyst, your product manager will say it's an excellent suggestion, but should we really do this? Our customers, do they really need this? If to make that functionality, if we're going to spend 100 hours and we are going to delay our project by 3 weeks, I don't want to do that. If this can be done within the same time frame, we can do this, or we can do this after that. So Moscow again, must have, should have, could have, and would have. I would probably put this as would have. It's okay. We could provide something like this, right? Let me go through the list of questions here. Do we have to start our stories with the work validate? Word, yes, you can. I do that. As I said yesterday, I start all my stories with the word validate in the beginning. Are there other ways to start the stories? It's purely on you. So what is referring, I think there's a question for Amin that we have to start writing sentences from validated word like this. I do this way for my own reason. There is no such method, but I like to just write it this way. You can just write in plain English also if you want to. This section will display rates for 4 mortgage, which is this. That's your call. So question from Sazia about the assignment for user journey. We are not going to create a user journey for this. We're going to do something different for this one, Sazia, and I'll let you know what those assignments are. Let's go and talk about the second user story.
I just have to listen to the video yesterday's class, so then I'll understand more.
Oh, whenever I'll send it to you, you can go through that and reach out to me if you have any questions. So second user story we're going to do now is for. So now you understand, see, when we're writing BRD, we're just talking about one section. Sorry, when we're writing user story, we're just talking about one section as opposed to the entire project. Do you feel the difference?
Yeah, I'm getting it now.
It's more like a baby step we are taking.
Yes. And I'll create one more story. I'll just go here. I'll copy the story from here. I'm copying it because I have the link assigned here. It is all part of this. So I'm copying the story here.
So is it like for each screenshot that we took for the user journey, we create a user story?
Yes, that's what I was trying to say yesterday. You may have one story for that screenshot, or you will have multiple stories for that screenshot. But at a minimum, you will have one story for every single screenshot.
So in the experience phase, you actually do small user stories for each small function.
Sorry, Sajay, I was not following your question. Can you repeat that, please?
Okay. So in the sprint phase, basically for the whole project, you really don't have to explain the whole project. In the sprint phase, you go with the smaller stories.
Yes, you don't have to explain the entire project in one go. That's correct. You talk about one story at a time.
Okay.
And you do give them some idea that, hey, this is what the project is about, and we're going to talk about it one after another. So that's why you have to be really organized and structured. You're going to talk about one thing only at a time. So I'm creating one more user story for you so that you see. I'm creating one for the for contact form for Bank of America. So when you click on apply now in Bank of America, it takes you here. I want to buy a home. I'll skip all this step. I'll just go to the form directly. So this is the form. This is how Bank of America's form looks like. So I'll take this screenshot, assuming this is the mock-up that is given to us by our designer. I'll take this screenshot and put it in the story. So guys, it's a very repetitive work. If you see, right, once you get the hang of it, it's a very repetitive work that you produce in Agile environment. As opposed to BA, your work is based on the phases where you're working on. So you all have to use tools like this. The way I'm doing it, this is exactly how it is going to be in the company. You're on your screen share and you're doing it in front of people, not in your in your first week, but after a few weeks, this is the expectation from you. So this is what my story looks like. I'm going to create one more story. This will be for all the error scenarios now, and you'll see the difference. So I create this story, I'll copy this, and I'll say, what type of error scenarios I'm looking at. I'll show you in a minute. So you go to Bank of America's page again. Just click on this. It will display all kind of error messages here. Do you see this?
So is it okay to provide another website's screenshot?
It's not.
So how do you, so then, yeah, will you take your wireframes or your mockups in this
That's what I
case?
just said, right? That you will get this from your designers.
Okay.
For the class, I'm just assuming this has come from our designer. But in reality, you will get this from your designer. So I literally created 3 stories in like how many? 15 minutes? Making sense? So let's look at one of the stories for form. If you understand this story on the form, you can work on any stories after this, which will require a user interface in your company. User interface is like any page development, web page. So contact form,
But you already have a website of American Airlines, Bank of America. But when we don't have any example, what screenshots are we gonna provide them?
didn't you ask the same question that Nisha was asking just a minute before, Shrey?
Is it?
Yep.
Okay.
I think what we said was this screenshots will be provided to you from your designer. I think you guys are missing out on one big piece. What I'm trying to say, the website that you are seeing right now,
yeah,
that exact website is created by your designer and you. The only difference is that after you and your designer creates this website, someone is writing a code for that. And then customers start using it, because customers can't use it before the code is written for it. So all this user journey that we are doing, all the screenshots that we're creating, right? All these high fidelity designs, mockups, you need to create all this, then only this will become a reality. So what you are seeing, a finished product, the product is actually developed by you and your designer. Hence we are taking this screenshot. It's not that because it is existing in production, we are taking this screenshot. It is existing in production because we created it first. Are you following that concept? Or you're not? Can I assume everyone is following that concept? I'm taking these screenshots not to just reduce my work. I'm saying this is the work that has happened before exactly this way. That is why I'm taking the screenshots. Are you all with me?
Question. So basically, once we give them a concept, developers, they build that screenshot, but you just take it out from Bank of America and show it.
Yes.
So they're going to provide, okay, this is how it's going to be. Right?
And then they will launch it to the market. That's correct, Zubair. Again,
sorry to cut you off. This is already in production, as you said. We have already built this. And so what is the point of going back and doing, because I'm assuming that we would have analyzed and discussed the error scenarios, or are you explaining this to us just as an example? I think that's my confusion.
So we are taking this as an example in the class, of course, because we don't have a real company right now, right? So how could I give you an example of that? So I'm trying to give you an example from the production one, but what you're seeing in production is exactly the same thing you're going to see when you're working in office, right? So can you start selling cars without engine if Tesla was not true? Can you start selling car without engine?
No, sir. Definitely not.
So once you put engine in that car, right? Car's weight increase, but the actual car changes.
No, sir.
So same thing I'm trying to say here, that this mock-ups that the screenshots that I'm taking from production, these were the cars built by your designer. All developer has done is that they have used this page, they've created this page now to talk to our database and backend systems, and that's it. Backend systems is the engine, that IT engine that I'm talking about. We have done this exercise like already a few times. I think I showed you the startup app as well, right? The way we started was, if you remember, we created this.
So from concept to prototype, that's what developer is doing for us. Prototype, and from there it's going to be going into actual production. Is that right?
Yes. So if you see, even when I wanted to build my mobile application, what I did, I provided this screenshots, this high fidelity designs, right? My app is looking exactly like this right now. So when it is in production, doesn't mean that it's some stupid page. I have put in this work with designer to create this. And now this page is a reality because development team has created a code for this page. And when I click on this, it actually works as opposed to just not work.
Yeah, that's the only difference, right?
That's the only difference. And I'm trying to say this from last, I think, probably 5 classes now. Our job is to create car without engine.
The example that you're giving right over here, did you have screenshots for those?
Yes, I did. And then I created the actual designs from there.
So this was actually somebody else's app, and then you got the screenshots.
No,
as
this
we've been doing.
this is my app. This is my startup. Guys, I don't know why this is getting so confusing. All you're doing is, okay, how, I don't know what else to say. I think I've given you several examples on this. What exists in production is existing in production because there were people like you and me who had put in this work before that.
I think we're overthinking.
Yeah.
No, I have a question on this. So actually you had something similar that was already on there and you...
No, I created everything from scratch.
So that's what my question is. How did you come up with the screenshots then? Because when we did the Uber app, we were just taking the screenshots as you told us. So this one is like creating from scratch.
You were taking screenshots because the designer has done that work for you. Over here, I was the designer for my own company. I had done this work. So if I want, I can go to the production and I can take these screenshots. But the reason you are able to take those screenshots in production is because it is available in production. It is available in market. If it is not available in market, what would you do?
That's what my question is.
So you create this. You work with designers. That's why you create wireframes. That's why you create mockups. Why is we're going back to our class 1 right now?
Okay.
So you create. Okay, let me give you a very simple example. Okay. I think hopefully this will solve this confusion. I'm seeing it's not just one person. There are multiple people who are confused in the class with this. So I want to make sure we understand this really well. Okay. Let's say you want to build a house and you have $500 million. Okay. Are you going to buy a person? Are you going to hire a contractor and tell him start putting bricks?
No.
What would you do?
Have a plan, sketch plan first. Have an architect, have an engineer, have a team of people who are there to help me.
What is architecture going to do and what is engineer going to do?
They're going to sketch out a plan.
What does that sketch out plan look like?
Something like a wireframe. That's what.
Okay. So you create wireframes. What's next?
From there, we
Get approval.
yes.
Get approval. Okay. After that, what comes next?
The engineer is going to give us a weight and
Mock-ups.
dimensions and distribution of weights and all those things.
The prototype. I think the
Prototypes.
next thing would be a prototype before the engineers start working on.
Yes. So you can't just tell someone to start putting bricks without telling him what it should look like. Right? So when that person is putting brick, what you have told him that this is what it should look like, it should look like. But the problem is that it takes 6 months for him to put the bricks and really make it look like that. Right? So if I have to give you an example how the houses are constructed, I'm saying that this house that you're seeing right now, someone has created the interior designing for that. Someone has created the mock-up for that. And that is what we are doing. We are working with designers and we're creating this for them so that this becomes a reality. So I think you just answered your own question.
Got it.
Right?
So this was what you're creating over here was a team effort between you and the developing team.
Designer.
Designer. Yeah.
Yes. So once I create this, then development team is going to start writing code for this. And the reason they're writing code for it is only for one thing, so that actual customers can start using it. I can't tell customers to go to phdtech.com, look at the screens. When you click on request now, nothing will happen. You have to just scroll this. I can't tell them that, right? They have to really make it work. When they click on request now, it should work. It should open another screen, right? That coding needs to happen. Someone has to do that coding, and that coding will be done by this development team.
In a real life scenario, when we are working in a company, do we get that opportunity that we have to create something from scratch, or we have been giving everything and we just have to work from point A to point B, as you said, the gap analysis?
You'll work on projects from scratch.
Okay.
90% chances are that you'll work on projects from scratch. Hence, I'm taking this extensive exercise in the class, starting with user journey, starting with process flow, starting with wireframes, mockups. And now you are at a point where you can start writing user stories or business requirement document. Right? So this is all the work that we have to do before someone can start coding.
So going back to your user story, why would you address the error scenarios after it has gone into production? Wouldn't you address the errors before going into production?
So wouldn't this story that we are writing right now is going to be developed before it goes to production?
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing, right? We are writing these stories right now. We are assuming that what we are seeing in Bank of America site, it does not exist. That's a gap.
Okay.
Right? That's the gap we are trying to fill.
Yeah.
We're trying to take Academy Mortgage's website to a Bank of America's level. Cool. I think we got sidetracked again in our class, but I'm glad you guys talked about it. I think you should not be confused about this. This is the most important responsibility, and we have been talking about this for last 5 classes now. I hope, can I assume now it is extremely clear to you all now? You can't go wrong on this. Okay. So, I think let's take a quick break, and I'll get back to you, and I'll probably just walk you through some Scrum ceremonies and role description after this. At the point where you would need more answers on the descriptions between BA, PO, and Scrum Master now. Now I'm going to talk about that.
Yeah, I have a question on that.
Yeah,
this is Amir. So in a company, obviously they have to, in today's market, be on their feet, moving fast, swift, otherwise somebody's going to take the market share. So the board decides, hey, our website is not good enough, we're not getting enough, or the CEO decides, it's elevated to that level. And then they tell their business managers or whoever, the technology head, that make a better website, work with business. And then they go to design and they come up with ideas, they do research. Like you told us in the first few classes, there's market research done and there's a gap analysis, where we are, where we want to get. All those, I don't want to repeat. You already gave it to us in writing. And then from there on, they come up with a few ideas and they take it back to the board. One approved. Okay, my website is going to look like this. And then what happens then? Who gets the ownership? The business manager gets the ownership, or there's a teammate? And then Is there a project manager appointed, and that project manager then hires? I'm just trying to understand the hierarchy. Project manager then hires a team with Scrum Master.
Always owned by business analyst, and it's product is always owned by, once the product is delivered, it's always owned by the team that created it. And mostly
I'm not down to the creation. The concept is approved. The board or whoever approved it, that okay, this is what our website is going to look like. Because somebody low in the company cannot decide for Bank of America what their website is going to look like. It's a brand. Branding that made it right at the top. Okay. So it comes down. Now who gets to do the project? There has to be one focal point who's going to be responsible. Who's the CEO going to ask, hey, is that website on? Is it there? Who will the CEO be working with? With the business head or the technology head or both?
Both.
Okay. The business head and the technology head, then they can't be both sharing.
CEOs will not be working on this that aggressively or even monitoring this. All CEOs will come and say that, as we said in the case study, right? Hey, why are we just getting 20 leads when we have 2,000 visitors coming to our page? Try to find me an answer. You will just put this as a question. And it's up to us to find out whether website is not working or whether a website is working and so there is something else that is going on. We have to come back and find that answer and tell our CEO. So communication would go from our side to CEO as opposed to CEO reaching out to us for the information.
Okay. So for that website project, who's the overall in charge? Is it a project manager who's appointed that, hey, this is your project?
Project sponsorer. There is always going to be a project sponsorer. Mostly it is going to be head of the product or head of technology, either of them.
Okay. And then from there, when does the project manager come in, and what is the hierarchy below that? I'm confused. I need to know that.
Did you guys, did you go through my recordings? I think it was covered, the hierarchy we have covered in the first or second class, if I'm not wrong.
But there's 2 or 3 there. I saw them. And it doesn't.
That's all they need to know. So head of the product would be at a director or a senior director level. And you will be hired once the project gets funding. When the project is funding, after that, project manager, business analyst, product owner, developers, QAs will be hired after that.
Project manager, where does the Scrum Master come in? Is the project manager and the Scrum Master the same?
They're not same.
Okay. All right. Got it. Thanks.
Cool. All right. Let's take a 5 minutes break and then we'll continue with our discussions. I've created the user stories for you. I'll give you access to that board. I think I'll add your email IDs so you'll have access to those stories and that board. Cool. Let's take a quick break and I'll be back. Hey everyone.
I'm here.
I'm here.
Okay, let's get started with the detailed discussion about Scrum ceremonies. I think we can, I'm not sure if we'll get enough time for today or not. We can probably continue in our next class. We're running a little behind on the schedule. I feel we are having a lot of discussions, similar discussions again and again. I think take this week. I'm thinking from from the exercise perspective. I have a VRD created for this project that I'll be sharing it with you so you can read through that. But I feel before you come for the next class, I'm going to share one slide with you all. If you have any questions or any jargons that you're not understanding that, I will request you to go back to the recording, hear that part of the recording well, and then go from there. So if you see in Teams, just one minute, I'm trying to open Teams and I think it's loading. Give me a second. Okay, let me start sharing my screen. Okay, so in the class recordings channel here, I have listed down the topic here that we have covered in the class. So if you have questions, if you feel that you're not able to grasp any particular topic, just look at these jargons here or this links and just go to this link and try to go through that information. Right? I think you guys really want to understand what we have done so far. Before I give you any more assignments, my assignment for this week was mostly to I have several user stories being added here in this Word document. I was requesting you all to create some epics for them and start adding these user stories in this board, this one, the one that I'm sharing here. So when anybody can use this board from now on, and you can exactly see how many stories we have, how the stories are written. You can drag and drop the stories into different lanes and all if you want to.
I just created an account. Like I didn't get the invitation for the.
Yeah, I've not sent out that to everyone yet. Should I just created this board today morning, and let me. I'm going to add your email ID to this sometime today, and then you will have access to this one. Okay, so quick summary of what we've covered in the class so far. A BA works in the same sprint as development and QA, but development and QA teams are working on the task that BA has worked on in the past. And in that same sprint, BA is working on the past work for future sprint, which means if you are in sprint 1B, development and QA team will work on stuff or user stories. When I say stuff, it's user stories. Development and QA team members will work on user stories for sprint 1B over here. When they see 1B, which is, it will be saying 1B here. They will be in that sprint, they will see this board. Development and QA team members will work on that. BA will work on future sprint, which is sprint 2A in the same sprint in that 2 weeks time and make that sprint ready for development team. Okay, that's how it works. And another summary here from this, if you remember, initial phase is more like wish list, planning is more like product backlog, development, testing, and implementation. This all happens within every sprint, small cycles, right? There are like every sprint, there are 20, 25 user stories, and they will make sure that that gets developed, that gets tested, and that gets deployed into production. Requirement gathering and design needs to happen one sprint or 2 sprints before the actual development of that user story, as we discussed, right? Are we good so far? This summary sounds good to you? Okay. So we're going to talk about the actual differences between product owner, scrum master, and business analyst. So, and once again, I want you to understand that scrum master role is very small role. One scrum master can be used for 3 different agile teams. Okay, it's that much repetitive. One scrum master does a very limited work for an hour or 2 every day for one team, and he keeps doing that same work for 5 teams now. Okay, more like assume there are 5 crews building 5 different houses. There is one person who's going to manage all those 5 houses and make sure they're always on time. It's more like that. So scrum master role is a very short role, but extremely challenging role because you're dealing with people. You're managing them, you're managing timelines, and you're managing someone's irritation. People are not happy. When you push them to work faster, they're not happy, right? So if you go to Google, this is what you'll find. Just go through this at a high level when you get chance. It just tells you that as a product owner, this is what a product owner does. This is what a BA does, and this is the common responsibility for them. Anybody can do this, either a BA or a PO. Likewise, here there is a BA, product owner, and project manager. In Agile world, project manager is a scrum master, but responsibilities of a project manager is different than a scrum master because in Agile there are different ways to manage team. So don't look at this PM here. This was more for you to understand what is a BA or what is PO role here on this one. Okay, so BA, PO, business analyst, product owner, and product owner. These 3 sections is what you should be looking at. Avoid these 3 sections. It's not for you. And if that is the case, let me just remove that information so that it doesn't confuse you. Okay. So again, this is just for your information. Just go through that. You don't need me for this. You'll also find this on Google. But this is where it gets important for you. So this is for waterfall environment or hybrid. Hybrid environment is an environment where people are trying to move from waterfall to agile, but they're not yet there. They cannot adopt the agile pace, the pace at which agile is working. They don't have that aggressive people working in their team. So literally what they do, whatever you see here, initial planning, requirement gathering, design, development, testing, and implementation, for every single thing will happen in one sprint. So this is happening in sprint 1, then sprint 2, then sprint 3, then sprint 4, then sprint 5, then sprint 6, then sprint 7. So in the name of agile, they're just doing waterfall, right? But they're trying to go there. They're trying to meet that end where they really become agile. So this literally happens in sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4, sprint 5, sprint 6, sprint 7. It's more of a hybrid environment. So you do not create functional requirements in the hybrid environment. All you create is a business requirements document. Or if you're going in the agile way here, you'll just create detailed user stories, but each user story would look like a business requirement document. Is it making sense? For the one functionality that we were talking about, live rates or promotional rates, we will add every single thing that we would have added in business requirements. So when you're in hybrid environment, you start going towards agile, but a lot of people are still using that same mindset and will function the same way that they were doing in waterfall. And over the time, it gets changed where that hybrid environment will convert to an agile environment. Okay. So you should know instantly if someone is asking you for a lot of documentation, they're in hybrid environment. Although they claim, do not say this to them on their face. Okay, don't say this to them on their face. If you know that when they're asking in the interviews for a lot of documentation, or when you're working with teams, they're asking for a lot of documentation, and the manager is supporting them. So you should understand they're in hybrid. And we should adjust our pace. We should adjust our mindset that, hey, I cannot just write 2 lines user story here and shine here. So in the name of user story, I have to write BRD here, business requirements document, for every small functionality. Just remember that it's a self understood thing. And we're not there to fight with anyone, right? Company is not there for a reason, because they've not done this before. And if you're lucky, you might be that person for working in that environment. I think for your first project, that could be a good stability, where people are not stretching you from your out of your comfort zone. You'll get some time to write detailed stories, discuss with everyone, and chances of errors are a little less. Agile is very dynamic, right? So that's what hybrid environment means. There is it's like mixture of waterfall and agile. But all the things that you do in that, it's exactly the same. It's just in the name of sprint, you have one phase. Nobody says this, but this is how it works. Cool. I think there's a question on this. So I hope that was clear. Go ahead, Amit.
Yes. So there will be, my voice is reverberating. Somebody's got their mute. Anyway, there will be a gap between what we write and what the developer understands.
Mm-hmm.
Do we address that gap? You know, when they come back to us, is that when we address it? Or do they show us a prototype? Or is there constant communication? Do we
There's constant communication.
pester them, hey, what have you made? Can you keep on showing it to me so there's no gap? How does that work?
There is a constant communication, because you all are sitting next to each other, like in one room. You talk to each other very frequently. You look at your screens, each other's screens, what they're working on. They will give you a small demo. Hey, this is what I've made so far. Is it looking good? You say, yeah, this is looking good. And then they move forward.
And can't
Now,
you also
because-
check it in Azure?
What was that, Abdul?
Can't you always check it in Azure?
As in Azure, you can only check the user stories, right? You will not see what someone has developed. They're developing on their local machine. So you would not see that.
Okay.
Azure is just to manage user stories and their code. But how the code looks like is in their local machine somewhere first. And over there, you cannot read the code and find out whether it's working or not, right? You need to look at the screen. You need to look at the page to see if it is really working or not.
Right.
So that's the difference between waterfall and hybrid environment. And there is a small document that may be produced, if not BRD and FRD. Sometimes in hybrid environment, they do say it's waterfall, but they do not create extensive documents like waterfall. They just create one document, which is called use case. And we are going to cover that in our last class. It is not that important. People don't create that, but I'll show you how to create use case document in the last class. BRD and user stories are must for you to know first. If you know them, then use case is pretty simple. So as a business analyst, first few key pointers. This is in red. In waterfall environment, we will never have product owner, never have scrum master. So everything that we are discussing here, every single thing is responsibility for a business analyst. It should not be confused with product owner. Are we good? Okay. So over here, let me. So in the initial phase, I have just called out this in red. This phase is not applicable for you because you're not going into the senior level position or a lead BA position. So this is not applicable for you. But what people usually do in this phase is they use W5H framework. They assist the directors and senior directors in the feasibility of the project or the product that we want this or not. And they just communicate constantly with management team and get the funding. This is all happens in the initial phase. So documents that we need in this phase is, I've created this. What type of meetings are required in each phase? What type of analysis is required? And what kind of documents you are producing, which is this? And what kind of tools are used? Just give me 1 second, guys. So over here, if you see, we have for each waterfall phase, what is exactly a BA or a product owner responsibility and with whom they are interacting, what are the meetings they're going to have, what are the analysis they're going to do, and what are the documents they're going to create, and what are the tools they're going to use, right? You need to remember this, look at this every single day from now onwards, if possible, when you wake up in the morning. First thing you should do is just go through this chart. Don't try to ratify, just read through this information and digest it, right? More you read it, it'll just become your second nature. So over here, in the initial phase, not too much of your concern here. This is not for you. This is where your actual work starts. As a business analyst, it's your job to assist your project manager in creating scope document or project charter, whatever you want to call, right? I'll just go back and change that to project charter or scope and vision document. So in that way, you guys will remember. So your job is to do stakeholder analysis, who is involved in this project and what is their role. So that is our responsibility here. We have done this extensively for a couple of projects already. And these are the meetings you're going to have. Kickoff meeting is when you guys have asked me questions, when they're going to hire you. After this meeting, kickoff meeting. When the budget gets finalized in the company, when company says, hey, your budget is approved to senior director, they will schedule a kickoff meeting and say, we are ready to start this project and we are ready to hire. That's when you will start getting calls. Okay. And again, over here, if you are hired in this phase, right, when this phase is going on, these are the kind of analysis you will be doing. You'll ask the same thing, W5H, stakeholder analysis, gap analysis, where we are right now, where we want to be, buy versus build versus outsource dev work, who is going to do what. Documents that you're going to create is scope and vision document, high level process flow diagram. Ignore this RSCI and streamline, we are going to cover in our future classes. So in planning phase, this is what your role as a BA. In requirement gathering phase, your role is to work with these people. These are the meetings you have, a requirements gathering session. And in that session, what you do, you create documents listed for this phase, which is all these documents: user journey, process flow, mockups, capture all other scenarios, BRD, FRD, use cases, data flow diagram, change request, non-functional requirements. This is your responsibility to create all these documents using the tools that we have listed here. In this one, what you want to do is, as we discussed, right, for the Uber project, what you do, you create BRD, you create user journey, you meet with stakeholders regularly to tell them this is what we are building and this is what we are working on. Identify dependencies, like this project is dependent on which departments of your company. Identify priority, Moscow and 2080 rule. What is must have, what is could have in that entire list. Recommend solutions to business stakeholders. If you feel, like you guys said, right, for zip code and whenever customer lands on the home mortgage page, based on their zip code, we can show them the loan amount. or average home price. That's a suggestion from your side. You can always do that. And last is facilitate knowledge transfer session. This is a key responsibility in every phase in Agile for you, because after every phase, there is a new audience being interacting with you. Like after requirement gathering, there's a design phase. So you'll be working with technical architect and a UI designer. In development phase, you're going to work with a lot of developers. So you always want to walk through your documents. This is called knowledge transfer session. You always want to walk through your documents to them in 2 hours long meeting. Tell them this is what the project is about. This is a standard responsibility as soon as you're done writing this, doing these things on the top. All these things. Pretty simple, right? We have to do that. Otherwise, these people, they have not been part of the project before. How would they know what the project is about? That's a BA job. In design phase, all you're doing is, again, facilitate knowledge. KT sessions is knowledge transfer session. Please remember that. People say in the company as KT sessions, K as in kite, T as in tiger. Facilitate KT sessions for BRD, FRD, and use cases. And for that, you manage in this design phase, what you do, you work with development team. I'll share a video with you all for these APIs. This is very extensive. We don't need to know this right now. You'll be working with development team and engineer teams to understand the architecture that they've created, the overall solution, and help them understand what the requirements are about. Work with designers to create the designs. That's all you do here. You do not have anything, any document to create here. The only documents that you create is here in the requirement gathering phase. This is your key role. Sometimes you may create some documents in planning phase, but mostly the documents that we have written here, this is your baby. This is what you need to work on. And after that, you just need to make sure that people are using this document and they're able to read through them properly. If there is any question, you clarify them. So over here, once the designs are finalized, designers and other folks will work on these things. Development team will use these designs, use this document, start coding. So obvious thing is that they will need some clarifications. So you will always there to help them manage scope and change requests that come through. So development team will start working on something and they find out, hey, I don't think we can do it this way. This is not a valid requirement. We can't do it this way. So you need to, there's a change request now. How to handle that? We are going to talk about change request process, but just to give you an idea. In development phase, these are the kind of discussions you're going to have. You're going to, like Amen said, right? How could I make sure developers have built things right? You do a smoke testing for them. You go to their desk, look at their code, look at the page they have built, tell them, show me how it works. Looks good. You can deploy it to your test environment now. It's good. Just like stopping at the desk and making sure things are looking good. Or they can send you a link, just click on it and you can do it on your own. So you help them perform smoke testing. You help them prioritize requirements. You give KT sessions for the documents you have created and manage scope. That's all you do here. Same thing, exact same thing you do here in testing phase. The only difference is that you do one more thing here. You also perform user acceptance testing, which is before you, if you are a homeowner and if you're buying a new house, right? When the house is ready, before you move in, you look around, right? Things are looking right. Before you get the possession, before you sign off on the document with the builder, you give the sign off, right? Everything in the house looks good. Likewise, in the software, you just look at things at a high level. Hey, this is what the user journey created. Is this journey looking good to me? Yes, give sign off and done. That's it. That's the only difference here between development and testing phase. Otherwise, your role and responsibility over here does not change much. Except that you start testing these things at a high level. And you will test every single requirement that you have written down in BRD. Okay. This is more for project manager implementation phase. All you do here is to make sure that when the if there is a demo sessions are called like people who were involved here in the beginning in the initial phase. Now, because product is going to go live, they are curious to see how that looks like. So you show them as a BA, you show them, hey, this is how the product is going to look like. You give them a meeting for an hour. You either record the session or record the meeting, or you give them the live session. This is how the app looks like now. Download it on your phone. Click here, click here, click here, do this. This is how the app looks like. So you give these demo sessions to them. At the end, you just, when the product is launching, you just make sure that the in production environment, things are still looking good. Things are not breaking. Our application is still working there properly. And at the end, manage the data. Post-production monitoring. Why post-production monitoring? Post-production monitoring is you want to consistently see how many users are coming to your page and signing up now. How many of them are downloading the app? The data will tell you whether your app is working or not working. This is the first time you put something in market, right? So you want to find out how it is working. So this is the BA roles and responsibility. I've highlighted these two things in yellow, this one and this one. When you're talking in the interview with recruiters, this yellow things is what you have to talk about. When you're talking with a developer in the interview, make sure to talk about this line. If you find out there is a quality analyst who is interviewing you as well when you are in the interview, make sure to talk about these things as well. And likewise, based on our audience, we'll change our answers, right? But you get paid. You mostly get paid for this 2 yellow rows, plus working with every single person from planning until implementation, clarifying their doubts, what the product is about. There will be consistent questions about what the product is about, because we are going to write like 1,000 rows long Excel sheet, and that is not enough. There will be even more requirements than what you can think about, right? So this is business analyst role in waterfall. I think we have already covered a lot of things from the requirement gathering, from the planning, from the initial phase. From design phase also, we have looked at the high fidelity designs. The only part remaining from this mostly is this testing phase that we need to understand from the business analyst standpoint. Rest, everything that we have covered in the class, that's more than enough for you to survive at the job, crack your interview. And to be honest, what you see here, you'll probably just do 20% of this in your first job. Not all these things. So what we've covered in the class is the aggregation of 5 years or 6 years of working experience. When you are in one project, you will just do 20 or 30% of this stuff. But we are not sure which 20% or which 30% from this. It depends from your company, depends on your project, depends on your team. But you not do all these things in one project. It will take you 5 years to actually know or absorb all these things from project to project. Okay. A lot of times I get feedback from my students that whatever we have covered in the class, they have not used it until now. I think I had people who I placed 7 years before or 8 years before. When I still talk to them, they still have not got exposure to everything that we are covering in the class. So hence I'm saying focus on this yellow rows first. This is your priority. Focus on yellow rows first, followed by the purple rows from your interview standpoint. Are we good? And I have not listed any other tool here than what we've discussed so far in the class. Word, Miro, app.diagrams, MS Word, MS Visio. MS Project is not for you, it's for project manager. Again, Miro, Word, Visio, Excel, PowerPoint, Miro, app.diagram, MS Paint, Visio. All these tools that you see here, these are not for you. These are all design tools. Hence, I've put a note here. Design tool, design tool, design tool, design tool. Then Jira or Quality Center, this is the software that they use to manage the tickets. Jira is something we use also for user stories, pretty similar, and there is no tool for implementation. So this is, in nutshell, this is what a business analyst does on daily basis. This is your role. And if you see, once you work in this 2 to 3 months, after that, all you're doing is coordination. Right? After that, all you're doing is coordination to make sure that whatever you have given here, that thing is actually what they're developing and testing. Trust me, 70% times you'll find out they're building something else than what you asked for. It happens. Although you give them this big document, 70% times they're going to create something else which you're not asked for. So hence you need to coordinate with them, work with them really closely, and watch what they're doing. Constantly communicate. So with that, I want to take a pause Any questions on this business analyst slide? If I were you, I'll just focus on these points on tell me about yourself. This BO or PO responsibilities, and just talk about these artifacts that you created. That's all you want to say in tell me about yourself. If it's a waterfall project.
Are we gonna work on Jira as well?
Shreya, your voice was breaking.
Are we gonna work on Jira as well?
We are going to work on only one tool, ADO, Azure DevOps, and I'm going to send you links for Jira on YouTube links for that.
Okay.
Jira and Azure DevOps are very similar. They're not very different. It's just like another version of Word. But the basic essence of does not change. You still write user stories. You still manage your board there. You still have a development environment, testing environment. You assign stories to people, create epics, create features. That thing won't change. So this is all for waterfall. And once again, guys, there is no product owner and there is no scrum master required in this role. Are we good?
Yeah.
Let's go to the next slide. So I created this for you so that you understand with the mindset that as a BA or a PO, whatever you see here, your company can advertise that they're looking for a product owner and just say these things in the job description, but in the interview, they're actually expecting all this. Or when you start your job, they're expecting all this. Or it could be the other way around, where they hired you as a business analyst. This is what they had advertised their job description to be for. But when they're interviewing you, they're expecting all this, or this one and this one. So every company has their own definition of product owner and business analyst. Make sense? Every company has this role defined in their own ways. And we want to make sure that we don't lose our opportunity, whether we get interview call for this, or for everything, we are prepared. Or for all three, we are prepared to handle that interview. And you will be in a position to do that. So don't worry about that, right? So what do we do here? Wish list. We covered this yesterday. As a product owner, what is your role in wish list? You partner with these people, product manager, marketing, legal, compliance, subject matter expert, various departments and vendors, to brainstorm ideas, to identify top customers' data and pain points, like we did for mortgage project. What did we do? Why are we getting only 20 leads? Why are we not getting more than 20 leads, right? What pages are not working out for our customers? So data points, customers' data and pain points. Identify top business or process pain points. Perform market and competitive analysis. Identify business strategy. This is all you do as part of wish list, and this is what your role is, which is what we did for e-commerce project, we did for digital mortgage project, right? But this is the exact same thing we also did for Uber project, but we did not call it as wish list. We call that as initial phase. Same question, similar mindset here. When you go to the product backlog, product owner's role there is working with product manager, technical lead, and scrum master to review monthly priorities for the epics or features. And they use this model, 2080 or Moscow again. Same prioritization model that we used here as a BA, 2080 and Moscow rule. That model does not change. Determine minimal viable product, which is MVP. We all talked about it yesterday. Do you guys remember MVP? Do you guys remember that?
Yes, I remember.
Yes.
Prioritization. Okay. So we've already performed these activities for the digital mortgage project, and we have performed the first set of activities for Uber application as well. Now here is a trick. Once you do this, in a lot of times, if you have a business analyst and product owner both in your company, there will be fights between them to understand who owns what. So first thing that you should do when you join a new company and when you see that there is a business analyst in product in agile world, you should clarify your roles and responsibilities. So this common section that you see here, you need to really find out how this business analyst wants to work or handle this responsibilities, or how a product owner wants to handle these responsibilities. You should have a clear definition and clear boundary between them. This is where a lot of fights will happen. If you have both the roles in the same company, if you ask me how many times you will get both roles in the same company, in the same team, probably 30%. 30% of the times you will have a business analyst and product owner part of the same team. Or 70% chances is that there will be only product owner. There will be no business analyst in agile world. Okay, let's do this. The next one. So in the common responsibilities, if you see what did we do here, I will talk about this meetings in our next class. We don't have enough time today to discuss about the type of meetings in agile, but I'm just going to tell you what deliverables we are going to have. Deliverables is nothing but documents or artifacts, right? We create user stories or high level user stories. Anybody can create this, BA or a product owner. Create high level process flows, user journey, wireframes and mockups. Again, anybody can do this, BA or a product owner. Depending on your company, depending on your project, you want to find out who's supposed to own that, and then you have to take up that responsibility. General responsibility that can be taken up by anyone is you always have to problem solve if there is any issue regarding a requirement or a story. We have to jump in and we have to start helping out people. If there is any issue, they might say that I don't understand this requirement. Hey, we are not able to fulfill this requirement because there is a technical limitation. So we have to work on those things with them and try to find out some solution. Secure approvals from various departments on the project that you're working on, which is marketing, legal team, various departments and all. Assist UI designers to create the actual designs. Perform user acceptance testing. Perform production validation. Manage sprint changes. Motivate sprint team members and release readiness and coordination. So this responsibility is at the bottom that you see here. All this is not very different. You still do this in waterfall. You do this in waterfall as well, and you do this in agile as well. The only difference is that over here you do this every 2 weeks. In waterfall, you just do it once after every phase. Over here, you do it every 2 weeks. That's the only difference. Any questions? I'm going to cover this meetings part in our next class. Are we good until common roles and responsibility?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. So the next one here, business analyst, sprint backlog. This is where the business analyst is. Business analyst role is in agile environment. Their documents is to write detailed user stories. From the one-liner story that product owner has created, business analyst will create detailed user stories from there, like a BRD. Literally like a BRD. No joking there. Okay. You may want to break down one story into multiple stories if your team asks for. So one story could be pretty big, so they want to break it down to in multiple class. Just a minute. All right. So again, I've not covered this in the class. Create detailed process flows. Sorry, this data and API requirements. I'm going to send one recording. This is part of those 2 recordings that I was talking about. Once the classes are over, once you're applying for interview, at the same time, you'll have to go through those recordings to make sure that you really understand what is data and what is API requirements from business analyst standpoint. If 99% in Agile, you would not do anything about this. You would not even have time to do these things. So forget even that you're going to touch this part. But I will still share those videos with you so that you have that information. Anywhere when you need that for your interview or anything, we can talk about that. Okay. Create detailed mockups and error scenarios. Whatever stories we have created for each scenario, we need to create detailed mockups, including all the error scenarios. This is the job of a BA. BA attends this kind of meetings. If you noticed, in all meetings, I have started with drive or attend. The meaning is when you are driving, you are in the driver's seat. You are driving this entire meeting. You are leading this meeting. When you're attending, you are just a listener. So do remember to read this that way. So meeting, these are the type of meetings. Again, we are going to cover that in our next class. So let's bypass this for now. Ongoing sprint. This is what you do. You review ongoing stories with team members on need basis, review ongoing defects, perform initial testing, and work with Scrum Master for release or launch readiness. So as a BA, they can expect you to do this plus this, or this plus this plus this on the name of a BA. Or they can hire you as a product owner and they can say you to work this, this, and this on the name of a PO. Or they will hire you as a product owner and an analyst, and you're expected to do all these things. Either way, you don't know what is in your destiny. You may end up doing something from here, something from here, or something from here. It all depends on your team and on your work. But we are prepared to handle anywhere where they put us. I have confidence that you, after this knowledge, you will be able to survive anywhere from this. You don't have to worry about it. Cool. Any questions? Are all the questions that you have in your head about the BA and product owner, are they clear today? At least can I assume 70%, if not all?
Yeah, somewhat.
It will.
I know. Yeah.
I couldn't have covered these slides before because you would not know what is wish list, what is product backlog, what is user story. So I had to wait to come to this slide before I can really share this in the class, right? And even when I'm sharing this, I know there will be some questions, but as long as you get the high level concept, if someone asks you in the interview, hey, what is the distinction between product owner and business analyst, right? You don't have to think much. Just remember this structure and you'll be able to talk through those things. If you have a PO and BA both working in the same team, you should know what are your boundaries and you should know what are his boundaries. That person should not shift his work to you and you should not shift your work to him. In either case, it will be ugly, right? Okay. Last, I think I'll quickly just end the class. I am in Houston right now. I think I'm getting several pings. Sorry, I have to drop off a little early. And I am also feeling some pain in my throat. I think I spoke with a louder intensity today than usual. But overall, for Scrum Master, this is what you do. These are the type of meetings you conduct. We are going to cover this in our next class. What are the meetings and how what each meeting means. People issues. This is what you deal with. Stories that are not delivered in time. Team members working on multiple stories and not complete any of the stories. Ensure sprint backlog is always full. Reduce risks and dependencies. This is your role. You do this for more than one team, 3 or 4 teams at the same time. Handle escalations, which is escalations you all understand, right? What is escalation?
Yes.
Is it something that is raised to your level or even higher, or is it both?
It's mostly to the senior executive level. Like there will be an escalation. Someone can escalate things to you and you have to escalate it further to make sure that the thing gets done in time. If not, it will be a problem. So Scrum Master always raises escalation very early than other folks.
Got it.
So in this one, if there is an escalation, this is how you solve it. Reach out to individuals and find alternatives. Escalate this in different meetings with your managers. Remove blockers for the stories. Manage release timelines and escalations to ensure releases are always delivered on time. And these are your deliverables. As a Scrum Master, this is what you create. You define sprint commitments. You define what is readiness for a story when story is marked complete, what is the criteria for that? When sprint is complete, what is the criteria for that? And burn down chart is like, if you have 10 members in your team on daily basis, how much time they have spent per story. So that is every sprint, if you have 10 people, they're working 8 hours. Every day you are burning 8 hours, 80 hours, 80. That's why you say burn down chart. You're burning 80 hours every day, and what work has been produced in that 80 hours. Scrum Masters to keep an eye on that to make sure that we are on track to release these things out. So this is the role of a Scrum Master. We will start talking about Scrum Master role from our next week's class. But I think overall for a BA and a PO, I think we are about 80% or more in terms of knowledge. In terms of project, we are at 2 projects, official 2 projects, but we have covered additional 3 projects which were not part of the class. And we are still having a lot of time remaining. We're going to talk about the different type of meetings, Scrum Master roles, how the testing phase works, and there are some other additional BA things that we need to know from the BA and PO role. So this is the time, guys. Go back, take this week, start revising things. Like I said, we are spending most of the time talking about the same thing again and again. If you do not catch up, if you do not do assignments on time, you will start forgetting things. And I'm afraid that you're going to ask me same questions when you have an interview tomorrow. Hey, what is a BRD? And I would really, really hate if you ask me that question. And I'm being super honest about it, right? We have spent enough time. We have done like 6 projects already. I'm at least expecting that you guys understand this structure and these things really well. It took me 6 years to get to the knowledge where you are at right now. Just giving you the relative measurement.
Wow.
Right. So hence you may feel that this is all theory. This is not theory. This is all real world experience. Cool. I think I'll stop sharing here and planning to conclude the class unless anyone has any questions for me.
I wrote one.
You wrote one?
That's what you're going to do.
Yes, I think I did not check the latest question. Yes, I'll call you, Amir, and I'll provide you that information on that one. So all this material is available to you on Teams, and I think there are some other questions. I'll talk to you offline on that, Amir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, guys. So any other questions before I conclude the class?
So we just have to revise the whole thing, right?
I would say that will be your top priority. I think I told this to each one of you before that oftentimes I feel that students with whom I'm working, they lose the pace. If you are aggressive, I will not lose the pace. I feel at this point, if you revise everything within 2 to 3 weeks from now, you should be ready for your mock interview, and you should also be ready for applying for jobs. But again, it all depends on how fast you want to be from your side. With minimal guidance from my side now, I feel you guys should be ready to start applying in 2 to 3 weeks from now. And I can guarantee you 8 out of 10 recruiter calls when you will take that after the mock interview. Of course, I have to still clear your mock interview and make sure you are able to talk with recruiters. 8 out of 10 recruiters will definitely get impressed by you, and they will submit your profile with what you've discussed so far. So final bye. I think I'll have to just go and have some fun time. Today's Sunday. I'll see you guys later.
Thank you all. Thanks, James.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.